What rich people know about money: most people spend their lives chasing money, without ever understanding how money actually works. They work longer hours, save small percentages of paychecks, and follow financial advice they were told would create security. Yet somehow, even after decades of effort, many still feel trapped inside the same cycle: earning, spending, repeating. Meanwhile, another group of people seems to play the game differently. The wealthy, they don't just earn money. They position themselves around it. They understand how debt, assets, leverage, and ownership quietly shape the modern world. And more importantly, they understand psychological truths about money most people never learn at all. Because wealth is rarely built through income alone. It's built through systems, behavior, patience, and information. Tonight, we're going to explore what rich people understand about money that completely changes the way they move through life. And if these are the kinds of conversations that make you question the rules most people accept without thinking, subscribe to the channel and share this with someone trading all of their time for money alone. In 1971, something happened that quietly changed the way money worked forever. Most people never noticed it, but wealthy individuals paid very close attention. That year, the United States officially ended the direct convertibility of the US dollar into gold under President Richard Nixon, effectively ending the Bretton Woods system. Nixon's shock to the average person: it sounded technical and distant. To investors, bankers, and financial elites, it changed everything. Because from that moment forward, modern money became increasingly dependent on confidence, debt, central banking policy, and economic perception rather than physical backing. And the wealthy understood a dangerous truth most people still ignore today: money is psychological, not just mathematical. That's why rich people think about money differently from the average person. They understand that financial systems are driven by human fear, greed, confidence, panic, optimism, scarcity. And once you understand human behavior, money starts making more sense. Look at what happens during financial crises. When panic spreads, most ordinary people freeze emotionally. They stop investing. They sell assets out of fear. They focus only on immediate survival because uncertainty triggers defensive behavior naturally. Meanwhile, many wealthy investors become more aggressive during those exact moments, not because they enjoy chaos, because they understand markets are emotional, and emotional markets create opportunity. This is one reason wealthy individuals often study psychology alongside economics. They know human beings are irrational far more often than they're logical. Entire industries are built around influencing perception, emotion, and consumer behavior: advertising, luxury branding, social media, politics. All psychological. The wealthy recognize this earlier than most. That's why they rarely view money as simply cash sitting in a bank account. They view money as a tool for acquiring assets, influence, and leverage. And leverage changes the game completely. A person working a salary is limited by time. There are only so many hours they can physically work. But assets can produce value continuously. Businesses generate revenue, stocks compound, real estate produces cash flow, intellectual property scales globally, ownership multiplies effort. That's why wealthy people often focus more on acquiring assets than increasing lifestyle appearances. Public luxury may attract attention, but privately, many wealthy individuals obsess over investments, equity, tax efficiency, and long-term positioning, because real wealth is usually quiet. And perhaps that's one of the biggest differences between rich thinking and average thinking. The average person often buys liabilities that look wealthy. The wealthy buy assets that create more wealth. That distinction alone changes financial trajectories dramatically over time. Take Warren Buffett, for example. Despite becoming one of the richest people in history, Buffett became famous for living relatively modestly compared to his net worth. Why? Because truly wealthy individuals often prioritize compounding over appearances. Compounding is one of the most powerful concepts in finance, not because it's exciting, because it's relentless. Money invested intelligently over long periods begins growing exponentially rather than linearly. And the wealthy understand patience creates advantage in ways most people underestimate completely. Average people often chase fast rewards. The wealthy frequently focus on scalable systems that compound slowly but massively over decades. And, psychologically, that requires discipline most people struggle to maintain. Modern culture trains people for instant gratification constantly. Instant entertainment, instant purchases, instant emotional stimulation. Wealth creation usually operates in the opposite direction: delayed gratification, strategic patience, long-term thinking. That's why many rich people ignore traditional advice centered entirely around working harder. They know labor alone rarely creates significant financial freedom. Leverage does. Ownership does. Systems do, and once you begin seeing money through that lens, world starts looking very different. One of the biggest things rich people understand about money is that financial freedom is rarely connected to income alone. That sounds strange at first, because society trains people to believe higher income automatically creates wealth. But history shows countless examples of athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and lottery winners earning enormous amounts of money, only to lose it all later. Why? Because earning money and understanding money are completely different skills. The wealthy know this. That's why many rich individuals become obsessed with financial education, investment strategy, tax structures, ownership, and long-term positioning. They understand that money behaves differently depending on how it's managed. A salary pays bills, assets build freedom, and once someone understands that distinction deeply, their priorities start changing. They stop asking, "How can I earn more this month?" and start asking, "How can I own things that continue producing value long-term?" That shift alone alters behavior permanently. The wealthy also understand something psychologically important about debt. Average people are usually taught all debt is dangerous, but rich individuals often separate debt into two categories: destructive debt and strategic debt. Destructive debt funds consumption, strategic debt funds assets. That's a massive difference. A luxury purchase financed for status weakens financial position over time, but debt used intelligently to acquire appreciating assets, businesses, or investments can create leverage capable of multiplying wealth. And whether people like it or not, the wealthy use leverage constantly. Banks use leverage, corporations use leverage, governments use leverage, because leverage accelerates growth when managed carefully. But understanding leverage requires emotional discipline, and that's where most people struggle. Fear controls financial behavior more than intelligence does. People panic during downturns, overspend emotionally, seek status validation through consumption. Avoid investing because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. The wealthy understand these emotional patterns and train themselves to think differently around them. Not perfectly, but deliberately. And perhaps the most important thing rich people understand about money is this: money itself is not the highest form of wealth. Control is control over time, control over decisions, control over location, control over opportunities, control over who and what gets access to your life. That's why wealthy individuals value ownership so aggressively. Ownership creates independence from constant dependence on employers, institutions, or systems controlled by someone else. And historically, the people with the most freedom were usually the people controlling systems rather than being controlled by them. That's why the wealthy study incentives constantly. They pay attention to where money flows, where attention flows, where technology is moving, where consumer behavior is shifting, because understanding systems creates advantage before the public notices change. And once you start seeing money psychologically instead of emotionally, everything changes. You stop chasing appearances. You stop confusing consumption with success. You stop believing financial freedom comes only from working harder. Instead, you begin focusing on leverage, patience, ownership, and positioning, the same patterns wealthy individuals have studied for generations. And maybe that's the real secret most rich people understand about money. Wealth is rarely built accidentally. It's usually built intentionally, by people who understand rules most others never stop long enough to question. And if these conversations make you think differently about money, psychology, and the hidden systems shaping modern life, subscribe to the channel and share this with someone still believing income alone creates wealth. Sometimes a single shift in perspective can completely change the direction of a person's future. Until next time, watch the way people talk about money carefully. It often reveals far more than their bank account ever will.